Hello everyone! We are doing another ANS versus OSP here on Arroyo 3K fleets per person. We've got Team 1 ANS Blue Trunks featuring Austral, Firebird, Lemon, and Tasty Cookie. Squaring off against them, Orange Trunks, OSP. We got Microsoft Edgelord, Kim, Nokek, and Noek. That's not going to get me mixed up at all. Anyways, we are here on Arroyo, the skull-shaped map, if you take a look at it from the other angle, or as everyone else calls it, the big donut with a bite out of it. Seeing the ANS deploying quite a few of their ships here looking towards the B side. Seeing quite a cluster getting grouped up there. You see in turn the OSP dropping quite a few of their formation kind of like higher on the right side here. Many of them going underneath the map towards that E point in a nice little line there. Going to be a nice little gunfight across the top if I had to guess. And then some interesting close quarters fisticuffs on the underside of the map. Quite popular thing is to press Control, Shift, Space by default and flip the map over. Now you get to look at this kind of like hillside here where people will tend to kind of like try and see if they can like tuck in here, get a little bit closer range gunfight, and then maybe go over the top or around the outside, around the outside, around the outside. Also have the lovely trenches of Arroyo. Everyone loves a good trench fight. So we'll see just what people end up bringing along here. We had actually just done a game on Gold Rush, which thinking back to now, did not feature any carriers or strike craft at all, which is a bit of a surprise as carriers and strike craft are kind of one of the hot things going in Neb at the moment. People are very opinionated on the matter. Ask anyone and they will give you something to say about it, but it's kind of cool seeing just kind of a return to classic form where we decide a whole bunch of players decide, you know what, I don't need planes. I just need a bunch of big capitals with guns and a bunch of light ships to run around and get points. So kind of a nice little mix up there. We'll see what we get out of Arroyo. I mentioned this because Arroyo is notorious for having some issues with craft, getting a little stuck on the terrain there. It's something that's gotten better, but still has a little bit of issues now and then. So we'll see just what we end up getting. Tasty being the last one ready to go there. Finally going to lock in. Let's see what these fleets are that the players have brought. I'll take a big sippy before we start up here, so everyone at home, take a drink of water. Standard looking Acello here on the drop-in. 450s in the Aurora sidearms. You typically expect very good point defense there. All right, this is going to belong to Nokek, who's got, looks like 2 Acellos here. Going to deploy them a little bit apart. This one up here is a rail Acello. Fun tech on this map with the long-range fire arcs there. You see a little T-20 locker shuttle here, just able to get onto a point or otherwise contribute to the team's intel stuff. Flint and Steel, Chicken Jockey, Minecraft movie references. All right, what's Microsoft Edgelord brought? CIA monitor with the early warning radar and Bloodhound. Does this have Intel Center? It does, feeding the team's intelligence. Very good stuff to see there. They've got, in turn, a 450 broadsider here. The Semper Dargaribdus. That's a fun little name there, reference. And then we also have the Dargaribdus Dylan, as I'm poorly pronouncing this, Dargaribdus, another content creator for Neb, so you can check out his stuff at your own leisure. I'll link his channel if I remember to when I post this recording. Anyways, what else do they got? They got big old 450 broadside there, grouping up together for some nice little frontline action. We got Kim down here bringing along, looks like some Plasma 100mm liners. Got the Goofy Era and Regal Flesh going under the map here, looking for some close quarters fisticuffs. Accompanying them is going to be, it looks like some T-20 basic shuttles here. Just missing a little chaff box there, or point defense. But probably just a little bit tax on the budget for that fleet. Gonna see it. Lastly, we got Noah coming out here with a very cheap container liner featuring a lot of other assets. Funnily enough, this is kind of the fleet that Noah was it Nokek? It was Turbo in the other game who unfortunately inherited a cap fleet as well as their container liner. Container's gonna go out here fishing for some of the initial deployment areas here, seeing if they can't get a strike onto the D point, seeing them trickle in some more of those boxes. This other stuff is going to be some cheapo little gun tug here by the looks of it. Gun tug goalies just going around the map here. Seeing 4 of those. Nice little asset there. Got some T-20 capper shuttles as well. Just cheap little assets. 2 of these are going to be naked. Just probably going to be trying to provide some radar coverage and maybe rushing that A point. Let's see what the ANS has brought to counter this. Going to see Lemon on the point here already dealing with some of these container strikes incoming here. Should see this thing make it out just fine. Yep, looks okay there. Where is their fleet on the board here? So yeah, Lemon got 1 Corvette. They got another Corvette onto the B point over here. And then finally, a third one kind of hanging back here, providing some electronic warfare. Looks like they've got themselves a pair of CLs over here with some size 3s. Yep, a couple of size 3s on the backpacks of these things looking to do some damage. 250s are quite lethal against anything equal or lesser than the CL there. Here comes the other testing of the waters towards the B point. Gonna see if they pick off anything. Tasty Cookie looks like they brought themselves a missile brick squadron here, so we'll watch those containers go in the background. Okay, that's just going to be 5 frigates full of yub. That's interesting. Looks like Rocket's going to be catching a little bit here, just barely missing, though, at the last second. So one of those is going to do a bit of a number here onto this cheap capper asset. Let's check what the front line consists of. Those getting a little closer comfort against the missile swarm over here. That said, though, they're starting to get some of their missiles out on target. Where are those going? Those are looking to fish in the back line over here. Interesting stuff. possibly trying to go for some of the deployed tracks that they had seen there. The drive flares sometimes give you a little hint of where the enemy is. Firebird rocking the Battleship once again. Got size 3 backpack on this thing. Spears, a couple less of them than we saw in the previous round that Firebird had played with this thing. Probably a slight refit in between there. This thing's going to make its way forward, controlling the top of the map here, although it will have to worry about that rail Acello up in orbit over here, because this thing is going to do a serious number against any bow-tanking battleship, punching right through. Bro, what is that salvo? Noek probably realizing a little bit of this stuff coming out here. Amazed how cringe CL can be. Seeing, yeah, a couple of these missiles going around here, just like seeing what they can fish for. Tasty, a container enthusiast, trying to find a container liner in the back line, having seen that. Unfortunately, not quite finding the location of it. Container liner decided to go low instead. Lastly, we're going to see Austral coming in here with a pair of CLs, the Peacekeeper and 15 years ago, as well as the Baker and Crash here, providing the little bit of jamming and locking here. Typically see a Sprinter accompany a pair of CLs like this, makes for a very nice combination. These have size 3 backpacks, the ultra cringe something on that. All right, so a couple CLs going to be under the map here, looking to do some fisticuffs against the 100mm bulkers. We'll see just what happens along the top as the big 450 war breaks. So kind of the diversion of calibers here. Both sides have a missileer. Both sides have close quarters gunners at the bottom. Both sides have long-range gunners at the top. We'll see just how things end up going. These missiles taking a leisurely route along here. They're really fishing for that container liner, trying to look for the common spots. Fortunately, the container liner is nowhere to be found underneath the map here. We'll see if this latches onto anything. If these get a lock, they should be able to stage, but I think that this salvo is going to be entirely whiffed. Bit of a gamble here, trying to go for something in the common container liner spots. Unfortunately, just not quite finding it. Seeing, I think that's Sarissa fire, or that 100mm flak. That's 100mm flak off the secondary batteries from Edge. All right. Yeah, a bit of an expensive salvo here. These are ARAD Acts. They're fairly basic missiles. Still, that's a good chunk of salvo being sent off there. These ones instead look and just go straight for the front line, realizing this. That said, though, there is an Aurora toting Acello along here, which has its bow mostly towards enemy. A couple of these shots going to be starting to plink away at Firebird as the rails start to come out on target. Rails coming in from a bit of an awkward angle. Firebird having to take on a lot of 450 here and the rails. They can bow tank all the 450 they want, but those rails are going to add up over time, seeing already a couple of fires being started up here. They have fire suppression module, which as long as that's alive is going to offset those rails a lot, but if that thing gets knocked out, it might be an entirely different story. Bit of 100mm flak chipping away at here. Going to see if these Auroras kick on or not. They're already targeting, trying to get the nose online here, I think, before the salvo really kicks off. Seeing them now staging quite a distance away. That's a very long distance stage as these start trickling towards target. Seeing them now weaving in and out. A couple of them going to be maybe getting through here. Last second Aurora pickoff there. A couple AMMs just for good measure. Able to deflect that salvo, but I think Tasty still has a couple more things in the bank. Let's check that. Yep, down to 60% of their total salvos. Still, they can do quite a bit more missiling incoming here. See more and more of those testing the waters. Or heading into an Aurora build like this, little questionable. I think they used up a bunch of their size 1s in that. Yeah, I mean, that is spending quite a bit in the missiles. A couple of these containers looking to fish out the missile array back here. Meanwhile, on the bottom of the map, you can see these 250 CLs playing this cautiously, knowing there could be rocket strikes around the corner or something else equally fierce. Torpedoes, like the tipsy little T-20 Corvette. I say Corvette. Shuttle. I always get Corvette and Shuttle mixed up. Going to be running into the daggers drawn over here from Firebird. Firebird does look like they're taking a little chip damage on the belly gun, but should be maybe able to get a bit more damage into this thing until the CLs rotate over and smack it. Lemon has another asset in the field ready now. Oh no, unfortunately, the decoy going to be tanking all of these missiles here. Containers coming up from the backline of Edge over here. Yeah, what's the backpack looking like? Yep, just all decoys all day. Very cheap investment and also really good to have. You can just use these as soft EWAR. You distract a bunch of the enemy, make yourself look a little bit more of a threat than you actually are. Additionally, these stack launchers have some really good damage soaking ability, having 200 hit points a pop for a measly 5 points, which is kind of incredible. Here we see some of the decoy containers onto the A point, going to seduce a bit of Austral's attention here, as they're not quite sure if they're real or not. They do pick off a couple of the real ships here. Looks like they've decided that those are in fact fake, as they have not capped the point. Here comes another salvo. Edge already deploying another decoy here. Going to see if they catch these or not. Looks like they will find Nokek over here. Nokek going to flick Battle Short on and just decide to chew through this entire salvo. This will deplete a little bit of the Aurora health bar. That said, though, they're still looking pretty healthy here. Decent repair on the Acello, able to put an extra 15% on the health bars that we see currently. Take this one up to 70% again. A lot of that missile critical mass value kind of being lost here as the Auroras just continue to chew away at that salvo after salvo. The railgun's going to be adding up here as well. We'll see just what happens to the War Weary once that fire suppression gets knocked out. Already seeing a lot of damaged and destroyed modules here. The fire count is adding up and just crippling the damage control efforts here. A couple of main bust shorts as well, causing this thing maybe some power issues. It's gone to ground now for a moment to try and put itself back together. Currently 2-2, perfectly even split cap. It's on the CLs on the bottom of the map here to get something done, and it's on the OSP to hold them back using their 100 mil bulkers, defending their E point there. Austral in kind of an interesting position as they're going a bit for the flank here, looking to maybe rise up towards the A point, see if they can't take a closer range fight here. 450 is very dangerous against these CLs, though, so they have to be careful with that. Need a high investment with Pen 8s and size 3 salvo. Yeah, Tasty Cookie, I think, just all-inning on the basic missiles type here, hoping to just kind of brute force their way through point defense. Unfortunately, the salvos, there's a big enough interval that the Auroras can cool down and get repaired, and the enemy team is able to kind of recover a little bit. These are going to stage. Looks like, yep, once again, they are all going out to the container decoy here. Radars are off for Microsoft Edgelords. So that means that these ARADs just going to purely strike into that line ship decoy. Expensive missile salvo, completely defeated by a 6-point line ship decoy, which isn't even dead. Love to see it. Ooh, that is quite something there. Adoring the 2K CLN archetype. Yeah, the interesting, like, CLN as a tech choice here, where you've got a bunch of these, like, lighter assets, but still have a dedicated missileer platform. I kind of like this, as splice fleets are very interesting, as you see, like, people be able to mix and match in different assets, deciding, okay, we need a couple more cappers. I still want to bring some missile support. What do we give up on? What do we take that's, like, a little cheaper instead? I feel like ANS does have a lot of potential here, but their missile support is really not getting it done. I think the Tasty needs to not salvo anymore. They have only got a couple of salvos left here. I think each of these fires a pair of missiles each. Yep, these are dirt cheap, just pure missile array, getting 5 of these. Typically, your missile frigate builds are going to be 4 missile frigates with a little bit more investment. You're going to see a burst go off there as the Tipsy does finally bite the dust. Looks like it took the daggers drawn down with it. Lemon committing on target. They're starting to find the enemy front line here. Regal Flesh does not appear to have a good lock onto the targets over here. Tiny Hull and Slick Empty all going to be off radar, as well as the, what is that last one there? The Wily Rogue? Yeah, the Wily Rogue there. Living up to its name, they're able to jam out a little bit of stuff here. Going to chip away at this. 2 CL formations developing the underside of the map, looking to push up a little bit. They've already swept a couple of cappers here and there. 4 salvos in each dry. Yeah, I think this is a problem. Missileers typically will end up trying to do everything themselves. They typically need to wait a little bit, find the fights that have already engaged and committed, then start chipping into those ones. Seeing over here, Chasing Shadows getting found out by the little brick gun tug over here. Mag, Ox steering, point defense turret in the C-30. Yep, this thing gonna soak that RPF rounds all day. It's C-30 going to be doing a good number against the Chasing Shadows over here, which has only a singular damage control team with that rapid. They're going to be pulling back in turn, though, much faster than the tugs, so they do get to choose which one of these fights they want to take. See, a pair of these things going to try and see off this asset. Firebird likely just going to go to ground here and evade. Only about 40 meters a second on this one versus the, let's see, once this thing kicks its flank engines on, it should go all the way up to like 50 or so. A couple of containers trying to fish for this one. Kind of interesting. Noak able to decide a little bit of like, hey, where's the enemy? Just using their frontline capper asset stuff there. Give a little bit of an idea, then swing a container strike towards them. Kind of liking it. Firebird in turn, going to ground for the moment, seeing if they can't do a little bit of 450 against these tugs. Tugs are resilient to these lighter caliber RPF rounds, but when a 450 round lands into the middle of this thing, it's going to have a very bad time. Still, this is a very long-range shot and is currently not locked onto, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to get that perfect shot landing. That said, those are getting dangerously close. Microsoft Edgelord in turn looking to try and get a gun angle on Firebird there, doing a little bit of work. I see some containers go off there. Looks like the last second, yep, going to be finding that and striking it, so Noak being a little bit of a, they're being a little bit of a chirping butt there, saying, hey, buddy, how you doing? Hi, I found your asset, hee. All right. We do afford a little bit of trips and trash talk and stuff like that, but still, wonderful hits indeed. Seeing another salvo here going around the bottom of the, that's a very interesting leisurely route. Those look like they're going to run out of fuel. That feels a little bit long to me, Chief. I understand the intent, trying to reinforce a bit of the front line, but I feel like Tasty's just getting a little too eager with this. They've expended how much of their payload now? Yeah, 70% of their payload for negligible effect. They've got a couple of hits here and there. Maybe they will get the swing that they're really looking for over here. Oculus S3, yeah, I think this is going to run out of range. They're trying to maybe hope that the radar seekers will kick on and find these. I think they pathed it just a little too far, though. It needs to kick this a little bit sooner. Otherwise, that, I believe, like 16-kilometer range. 16 to 20 kilometers is typically what you see for these size 3 hybrids. Probably going to run out of fuel here. Seeing a last second kick as well. Not really sure what that's intended to do. Kind of a weird hooking shape there. Probably meant to go like here and then just like straight on would be my expectation. But then again, what do I know? I don't missile that often. Austral going to be committing on target. Does find these on the flank here. Now going to start getting some work done. Has the jammers active in the bullseye as well. Going to be isolating these assets down here. A capper attempting to go off here. The whip super going to be finding a couple of 450 rounds worth of trouble. Not that effective damage, though. Both CL formations looking to try and compass here. See if they can't get a nasty flank off and push it. More of these missiles here, just like, I don't know. Like, if this does get through, this is going to be a very impactful hit. But I don't think these are going to have enough fuel. We saw them run out of fuel before. I think this might be just a little too far. Going to see jammers kicking on in turn here, trying to look to see if they can do a little bit against the flank attack here from Austral. Austral is picked up on burn through. There's clearly something down here with a burn through radar. One of these probably has a Bulwark Huntress. Yep, there's the Huntress able to detect the enemy. That said, they still can't get a fireable lock. A cap attempted here as Lemon is going to be moving on to the point. Opportunities created by Austral, tying up the bottom of the map here. We'll see if the A cap goes through or not. Firebird holds back the enemy on top here. That entire salvo appears to have just disappeared. So, yep, that's going to be a fuel issue there. Unfortunately, Tasty whiffs once again with the strikes there. Just not quite able to find the hits that they want. Again, missileering, you want to be playing that support role. Either set up your allies with a nice strike against targets that you know are not going to be sufficiently defended. That, or you try and go for the engaged fights like we see right now. This would be the perfect opportunity to try and get some shots on target here. A missile strike would completely cripple any defensive effort on this bottom side of the map. This is where we want to see Tasty take these assets and then swing down below. But looks like Tasty in turn might be having some trouble as Noek has just found their way into the backline here with some C-30 tugs that were completely uncontested across the like top side of the map here, question mark? A couple of these instantly going to stage, but just going after chaff here as it looks like they've shut down their radar briefly. Yep, radar signature is going to be negligible there. It says nominal, but usually it says reduced. Interesting. I wonder what's different about that. Do they have any special drives? No? I don't know why that says nominal, because that should be reduced. Interesting. Either way, Container Strike on its way, trying to be fishing for these. Tasty at one truck, there are 5 of them. Yeah, Tasty going all in on the full greed build here with missiles. Speaking of missiles, going to see some size 3s. Now this is the size 3 commitment we want to talk about. Seeing a couple of these weaving through point defense, going to be finding their way into the front. Immediately taking out the thrusters there, so that's some good inhibiting of their maneuverability. Yeah, the goofy error here is structure broken. This is what happens when CLs get on target. All of these guns going to tear apart this liner very quickly. Does not matter how much damage control or Citadel assets you have. You are going to get burned down very fast here. That 250 DPS does not play around, especially with missile support. Oh no, oh no! The missile's immediately deciding instead of going after the tug, going to be zooming right by and hitting the liner decoy up top. A couple of these containers looking to find something. There is no point defense or anything else over here. Unfortunately, it looks like they might run out of fuel in turn. Oh no! That's stage in. That's a... Interesting. Stage inside of the... That is very unusual. No point defense left on this thing, but if it gets close enough, it might not matter. Just can't quite survive here. No damage control teams on these as well. Just means that once that basic CIC gets plinked, this is going to be a dead ship. That said, most of these have expended their entire missile payload. They're probably going for one last hoorah strike. Here comes some more missiles into these wounded bulk freighters down below. The Regal Flesh looking to eat it in a second. HE-shaped missiles coming in here. Heck, down the nose of this thing would do devastating amounts as well. Couple of those going to find their way in. There you go. 1, 2, and then lastly 3 going to find it. Structure break not quite yet, but this thing is going to be rapidly undone by all that 250. ANS will win the bottom side of the map. Still, they're going to lose their their missile support fleet for it. There we go. Finally, a missile hit, crippling this thing for the moment. That's what we wanted to see. Unfortunately, just was not quite able to get it. Looks like they were just a little slow on the MCON. ARAD Seeker was able to find them. Top of the map, Firebird kind of having to go to ground here. Holds back the enemy a little bit. We're seeing the double bulkers here from Microsoft Edgelord. Going to be finding Austral in the flank. Austral not too happy about that by the looks of it. Going to be trying to do some jammer work in return. See if they can't maybe break the locks here. See what is able to be done. Got a couple of these missiles coming out to you. These are command with ARAD secondary HECP on these things. Direct fire. Looking to go probably down the nose of an Acello if I had to guess by a missile like that. Maybe also gut out a monitor. These will likely overpen horribly here. Also, we see a Clipper liner decoy. This might seduce. We're not sure. Going to find out. Looks like those are going to find their way right through the Semper Dargaribdis here. Punching out repeatedly the areas here. Mag snipe on this thing as well. Does have a secondary? No, does not look like it. This thing is out of ammunition for the moment. Needs to get these back. That is going to be a whole brutal strike there. And another one to follow it up immediately. Going to see more HECP of these Ultra Cringe missiles. Will these stage early? No, they will not. These are command, and there's no Warbler in this formation, so we'll just watch more of this ship get punched out here. Is structure broken, so anything you see is going to do crippling damage. That is a nice use of the missile backpack, telling them affectionately to peck off. I think this thing's... Oh, no! A small drive! And you silly goober! You know better than that! Kim, unfortunately, looks like they have surrendered here. Yeah, they were taken out largely on their own over here, isolated by those CLs, moving in and pressuring the E point there. Very good formation movement there as they were able to strike from... I was going to say strike from above, but it's really striking from below and from the flank here. That nice formation advance there as they were like kind of box in them from multiple angles and then isolate. Container strike is being attempted here. Time on target going after Austral. Austral in turn trying to move out of the way of this, knowing that trouble is on their way. They're trying to shoot at the Clipper decoy here, maybe not realizing that it is in fact just a fake ship. These containers looking maybe like they'll catch one of the CLs over here. These ones definitely being on the right venue. We're going to see if these are able to lock it up or not. Taking a look here, see what's going to start up from that defender, trimming out most of that salvo before they're able to find it. These other ones here, it looks like they're not quite getting it. Nope, now they're going to stage on target. We'll see active decoy going to seduce a lot of that. Piranha rocket's going to get trimmed up as well. Not quite the time on target strike they wanted, as we just watched most of those strike off into the rock or otherwise get negated. OSP taking the B point here. Firebird not really quite able to pick a fight here. Unfortunately, Firebird stuck on the top of this rock for most of the game. The railguns keeping them pinned and suppressed. Still, though, Firebird might be able to go lower here now and pick off a asset or two. There is the 450 Acela that's made its way onto the A point. It looks like Firebird needs to rotate themselves and get on target against that. Their antenna is knocked out, and their backup is still working, so they should be able to be fed a track from their allies here, ideally, assuming somebody sees this thing. Hopefully somebody does. What actually has radar read on it? I think it's just Firebird, so they might be struggling to get a read consistently on that. Battleship radar panels are notorious for getting knocked out. B point and C point are capped for the OSP. E point is capped for the ANS. 3 caps currently as the OSP controls this side of the map. ANS in turn controlling the kind of outside here. Tasty Cookie has, I think, 1 good salvo left in them. Needs to make it count. Missiles on both sides not really finding purchase this game. That said, though, Tasty Cookie investing a lot more into the missiles than Noek. Noek being able to bring along those capper assets, doing a very good job getting into the backfields like we saw there. I feel like ANS kind of needs to do something like in the like lower side of the map here, consolidate their forces, see if they can't push onto some of these other assets. More Clipper decoys being chipped away at here by HE rounds. Very surprised Austral is not firing RPF rounds. Possibly they're out or just didn't bring any. No, they have RPF rounds. Little curious about that. Instead, they're just going to take out those decoys there by the looks of it. There's a mine trap left here on the C point by Noek. Not sure what deposited those. These are just arming now. Possible mine container play. Interesting stuff. Was not launched from this. Mine containers aren't something you see that often, but you can see them deploying a little like field like this at the start of a game if people don't want to bring along a shuttle or tug. Final salvo coming out here from Tasty, looking like they're trying to do something here, weaving their way through the trench. This is a little risky, as if these go wide, they might touch the trench walls and go kablooey. And needs to kill that Acelo indeed. Going to see if Firebird is able to be relieved on the front line here. Front line has committed on target. Might be able to deplete a little bit of the health bar here. If they were able to take out a bit of the health bar of the Aurora earlier, this would be a much different thing. But I don't know about this one. I think Tasty's missiles might run out of fuel, or they might just whiff into a wall here. It's going to be a little bit risky seeing them go through here. Playing dangerously close to this Corvette from Lemon. Match is whack indeed. Yeah, this has been a very interesting kind of weird match on Arroyo. Once again, neither side decided to take planes. Just kind of a gentleman's agreement that we don't want to go spacecraft. We just want to go like pure warship. Seeing some more of these containers going out here looking to fish for Firebird. Those are going to be a little bit close for comfort. Trying to get right up the tailpipe on that thing. I think they're not quite going to get it. Firebird most likely just going to reposition themselves here. It's like that's a really close stage distance. Missile's going to be finding their way through. Looks like they are going to clean up the shuttle at the very least. So horrendous overkill on one asset. Acelo is able to live for the moment. Firebird, in turn, going to get missiles here before too long. Let's see if these containers are good or not. Playing dangerously close to the rock here. Firebird losing power by the looks of it. Yeah, getting, unfortunately, reactors sniped here or forcing... No, they had to do an emergency shutdown to deal with a reactor overload. That's unfortunate. At the same time, that's maybe going to save them from potential ARAD. Poor timing at the same time, though, as Defender's not going to be active. That's going to drift into the front and deal no damage. What the fuck just happened? Excuse me? What? What? Okay, Piranha Rocket's going to do exactly dick all as well, because the armor just tanks them. What the hell were those containers? Hell did they go for indeed? Yeah, the missiles coming around there. That was something. No, they didn't run out of fuel. They looked like they turned and had impact. Possibly out of fuel at the last second. It looked like those struck the front there, but did damage. Think they just rammed the BB? Yeah, did they not get a lock on for anything? Wake backup strikes again? Possibly? That was a really fucking weird drift. We're gonna have to go back in the VOD and watch through that one and figure just what the hell happened. Anyways, the War Weary is back up on its feet. It has recovered a little bit here, still taking a brunt of damage from multiple assets, but at the same time, it's a battleship and it's doing okay. Those Mattock mines are a bit of an issue here. In about 50 seconds, these are going to be armed. Does Firebird have point defense active at the moment? They do have defenders here. Do they have radar coverage? They might not actually see those, depending on their angling here. A bunch of their panels are kind of dinged up here. Is the radar still active? Yeah, looks like it is. Should be anyways. I think they're just out of range for those mines. That's unfortunate, seeing a missile going off there, doing a little bit blink damage. 450 starting to add up from the fine whirl over here, and I think from below... No, Microsoft Edgeloid engaged in the backfield. That's going to be the 250 CLs trying to do a little bit of work to clean up shop here. You'll see more of these size 1s going out. Size 1 direct saw. Huh. Secondary armament, I guess, off of the container liner, trying its best to just see what it can do and deplete chaff at the moment. Firebird continues to be the hero of the front line, just holding off with what they can. These mines might activate in a second, which could be very dangerous if these are able to get a strike out on the wrong angle. Battleship is dangerously close nearby. This works after the engine gas. We'll see. Size 1's going to be maybe finding their way in here. Mine's going to, swing and a miss, unfortunately, after that active decoy. Other ones, yep, a lot of chaff here. They're quickly going to miss. Firebird playing with fire, as the name would imply. The Phoenix rises from ashes as it's able to kind of put itself back together. 13 damage control teams and a whole lot of fire on this thing. C point is currently still held, but looks like Austral might be trying to do something about that. Do they know that the mines are here? No way of telling currently at this time. They're trying to go idle. Oop, they're going to know now. Let's see if the point defense guns are active. Yep, trickling in a little bit. Defender's going to be kicking on. Should be able to take out these mines, as these are just going to fly in piecemeal. Mines are very scary when they all activate at once as soon as you come around a corner, but when you get these long open sight lines, it's generally good to deal with them. Why are you not shooting at them anymore? Oh, God. Oh, no. That's, huh? What? Oh, no, the angling. Oh, no, the arcs does not have the quad defenders all the way around, unfortunately. Oh, just the perfect dead arc there where they don't have the point defense. Oh, ripperonis. 15 years ago, unfortunately, getting struck there on just the wrong angle. Bad arc on defenders. Just going to let them know about that. Yeah, Austral very confused as well why they were able to shoot down some of them. Just the perfect wrong arc there, making it so they weren't able to get that. Yeah. Just taking a look at that, like, that's the most unfortunate arcing I've seen. Like, they picked the one side that has the lack of defender on both of these ships on the inside, and it manages to perfectly sweep in there. That's rough. All right, Firebird holding the front line here as best they can, getting a little bit of shots out onto the fine world, which has actually taken some damage now, seeing the midsection of it getting torn up a little bit, probably by those CLs from below. CLs slated to sweep in here. The Peacekeeper is still healthy, able to take out one of these ships here, seeing the other one over here taking a little bit of damage from the other CLs down below from Lemon. Lemon kind of splitting off wisely, going back to secure the D point there. Still anyone's game, as both teams fairly even on cap, 624 to 634. Thousands of Hours getting shot at by Cookie as prepared Firebird to deflect those size one's offenses. Yeah, Firebird has been playing the kind of heroic frontline, like, just tanking, soaking build here. If you buy a battleship, you got to be ready to get shot at with it. You paid for that armor and damage reduction. It's a 1,000-point hull. You might as well put it to use, seeing how much damage this thing can take. Secondary batteries on the top and bottom of this, the T-30 is actually doing a little work. Honestly, for like a container liner like this, I don't hate the T-30 secondaries. It's a fairly cheap investment, and you've got the hull in the late game potentially to clean up some slight sweeper assets, or maybe just see off those corvettes that might harass you a little bit. Potential grape shot into a incoming plane or something like that can save your ass as well. Kind of liking that dual purpose where we get a little bit of the frontline duty here. That said, though, those drives are looking a little bit toasty. Regular drive here and damage control teams trying to take out all this, but this is a very big hole, and those teams have a lot of distance to cover. Only 5 of them here as they're trying to get this. Yeah. Last match, 100 mil sidearms on Sea Lion really annoyed me. Yeah, correct on that one, Jar. We had a previous game where Jar was doing capper stuff, and the 100 mil sidearm was enough to see off a corvette or two. 15 years ago is going to hold down the C point here for the moment. Where did that other CL go? There we are. The Peacekeeper driving his way towards B point. ANS looking to get the capper reversal on this. OSP kind of running out of assets at this point. There is a CIA monitor. There's NoKek with a 450 Acelo, which is taking a little bit of a pounding. The War Weary is certainly weary, as has been shot all game, but is still managing to hold on here. It's got its mission critical assets. It's got 2 drives. It's got its guns here still active. It has its magazines. Does still have that antenna desperately feeding this thing track info from its allies in case it loses its radar panels like we've seen happen here. Always bring a backup antenna on your battleship, folks. It is definitely worth the points. In fact, I'd say that might be the most important thing to bring on a battleship outside of the guns. CL is doing a little bit of work here as they get some of that plinking onto the belly here. The 250 AP rounds, I believe, are sufficient to pen through at the angle that they are at. Yeah, seeing a little bit of chip damage going there. Nice stuff there. Battleship survives and stays operational. It's GG. Yeah, as long as the Battleship can live here and just soak fire for a bit and then sit on the points, they should be fine. Tasty splitting up their forces now, sitting on the cap points, making use of the dispersion of the frigates. Even though they don't have any armament, they're still able to get onto a cap and maybe hopefully do something. Act HE round gonna just splatter into the ship and apparently do nothing there. Just splashes off against the front. And we see it like his damage raise, I think, just soaked by a thruster or something there, or just otherwise seen off. 100 mil going to do a little bit of work, though, as this should be able to sweep up the D point. Still, though, the tiny hull down here below from Lemon is going to be waiting, and I think that a CL is going to outgun the container liner here, which is largely out of munitions. Yeah, nothing really to contest a CL there. 3 cap goes off for the 4 cap for the ANS currently, as they've secured A point, B point, the E point, and the C point here. B point is the last thing here for the OSP. Scram last match for 40 seconds, still got fuel line fire. Yeah, that's unfortunate. We sometimes scram like one crit and you realize, crap, the other one's going to get me. Fuel line fires do not play around. Once you get those like quadruple criticals in a drive like that and you have a fuel line fire, I'm sorry, Chief, but it's going to blow. You're not going to fix that thing. Ain't no damage control in the world. It's enough. Seeing the Peacekeeper here, Tokyo drifting it by, putting some rounds into the broadside of the flying roll here, doing very good damage. Acellos are brutally tough to kill from the front like this, but once they get hit in the side by this steady DPS of 250, they can fold very fast, especially once they lose those reactors that they so rely on to power up the Auroras, the Bullseye, the Parallax, wherever it is in this ship, there it is. And then things like the Floodlight, they can end up being mission killed just by losing their reactors. Austral driving towards the B point here. Tasty Cookie as well with whatever they can. The Natalie V. Engelman? That's an interesting little name for a ship there. Trying to make its way onto a point. Fortunately, losing its front thrusters, they're not going to do it any favors. These things have no damage control, and I believe we're trying to go on front for flank speed. CL frontline, CL is cap. Yes, CL is everywhere. Going to show the power of maneuver warfare, where the 100 mil bulkers down below got outmaneuvered, got 2v1 by those CLs, and the CLs proceed to sweep the map. The front line holding there as Firebird was just able to soak a whole bunch of rail and 450 rounds for the better part of the game until their bottom side flank could actually pull it off. Again, going to show the power of just being in the right position at the right time with the right assets. Missiles weren't really a big factor this game. Tasty Cookie tried, and unfortunately, I think like 9 out of their 10 salvos just completely whiffed there. I think they killed a A-point capper, and that was going to be it. GG is called now as the cap's going to be going through. Yeah, I think that they're realizing that it's too little too late. Noak here trying to do a little work, sending off some of their decoys and stuff here, but no, that CL is healthy, and it wants blood. Doing this thing with 1, 2, 3 ammo, 4 ammo elevators, and Mark 64's DPS on these is incredible. Going to start punching out various banks here, looking to do any more damage they can. Going to be the rest of the team likely surrendering here shortly. Microsoft Edgelord down to just their CIA monitor, and I think it's just Noak with the only combat-capable craft. Yeah, they get an E-capper onto the point here, but I don't think it's going to be enough with the sweeps that we're going to see here. Edge trying to go for C point, but should be only a matter of time before something realizes what they're up to and quickly rotates their guns over. Do they see this ship, actually? I think they must, but they're not currently assigned on target. 15 years looks like is currently assigned. Nope, they're trying to hit the CLN over there. Does Firebird realize? No, they don't. Instead, okay, OSP going to throw in the towel as Noak Vessel decides to elect to GG there. That is going to be the game. Still pretty neck and neck for points until late game. Just going to show why winning a flank there on the underside can suddenly lead to a reverse sweep as they come up from below. Austral doing incredible damage with those CLs. Yeah, that's going to be something to write home about. Firebird holding down the front line very well there. Lemon doing a respectable number as well. Not quite the same as Austral with the sudden burst of those Hecate backpacks we saw. But yeah, CLs, if not correctly punished, can do an incredible amount of work. Tasty Cookie tried to get some missiling done, but just was a little too eager, threw them into the wrong targets, or just couldn't quite get the fuel range set up right for that. But yeah, how close was I to the CLN with the Yubs? Last 4 ships. Sorry, Tasty, you were a little too eager trying to do that backline snipe. Couldn't ever find it. It went the exact positions you did not missile. I saw what you were trying to do, and I respect the intent, but just unfortunately couldn't quite get it. I feel like the fleet's also a little greedy, just going so purely into like these missile types like this. You just weren't ever quite able to get the shots. Maybe like hold off a little bit on the trigger there. Just wait until you get like a better shot lined up for you by the front line, then commit onto it. Yeah, it's a meme. I guess it's a meme, but still, it's like you can execute a meme decently well. I know you have the talent for it. Kim in turn over here had a good fleet, but unfortunately got 2v1 by those Vauxhalls down below the map, so not really much to say about that. It's just unfortunately you can find yourself like that. Microsoft Edgelord tried to do some damage, but again, just never really had a target to shoot at. The Battleship was in the correct position to bow tank and just negate most of the incoming fire. Then they got hit by some nasty, nasty Hecate on one of them, the 6 Semper Dargaribdus, taking it And then the Daguerreobolus delenda Est was able to be focused down by the ensuing 250 and 450 combination. NoKek got some pretty good work done with the Ocello there, able to just soak a lot of the incoming missile salvos with the Auroras. The 450 trying to do its best there. No idea how CLs ate that mine. PD was an arc. I looked at the specifics of it, Ostral. I think you just had because you had both chaff launchers on the inside lower side. I believe the mines just found the perfect angle where the PD wasn't able to fire on them, and that was really unfortunate just looking back at it. I got it on video, so I'll post this one another time. You can go check that out yourself. Yeah, I actually really like NoKek's fleet here. The combination of the frontline frontline Ocello with the rail Cello, and then a little escorting asset just for utility on the map. That's kind of awesome. Just as a little hey, let's bring the Ocello, enable my frontline 450 combo like we saw there, and also have something to deal with the bow tanker. The rail Cello is I kind of feel like a slept-on tool. Just bringing one of these things on a larger map or something with a long sightline like Aurora is really good. Lastly, we had Noek Vessel here able to do a little bit of containering. That is a cheap container liner. Look at that thing, just shy of 1,500 points here, allowing them to bring up a bunch of these tugs and little capper shuttles around the map. That's a very interesting kind of half and half cap fleet, half missile support, half just very cheap cappers, able to just do the job, checking the box, get onto the point there. I'm a fan of these builds. These are interesting. I feel like they could be executed just a little bit better. Some of the positioning and deployment and focus fire wasn't quite where it needed to be. But at the same time, Nebulous is a game where you don't know exactly what the enemy's doing. You need good scouting and good decision making in the moment. We saw some very good executed plays there from the ANS team, able to use their CL's maneuverability and just quickly move them around the board, sweep through assets. Yeah, good stuff on display there. Interesting Aurora game. I love casting Nebulous. I will catch you all in the next one. Meow meow.